Okay, we are live.
Good evening, everyone. We are back. We have like back-to-back shows this week. We just miss you guys so much. We wanted to bring everybody on and interview them. So we are back again tonight. It'll be a second before we get started here, but if you are live with us, please say hi. Let us know where you're watching us from and help us share. It'll just be a second here while we share this into our personal pages, and then we can get started. Hi, David. Okay. I hope you guys are having a good night or good evening wherever you are. We have a pretty interesting and awesome show for you guys tonight. I know Kelly and I were just on yesterday, but we wanted to come back on tonight and do another interview. And so we have scheduled something for you guys tonight. So hopefully you guys stick around and engage with us, ask questions as we talk to our guests. Tonight we're going to be covering modeling. And if you haven't seen, this model was actually featured in the New York Times Square. There was a huge I don't know if it was like on a screen or like an ad of some sort of her. And so we're so excited to be talking to her today just about her journey and stuff. So if you're live with us, please continue to stay live and engage. Help us share as well. And we'll get started here in a little bit. And I feel like I'm a little blurry, so let me know if you guys can see me or if I'm clear or not. God, I feel like I've been having I'm always having internet issues for those of you who tune in for our shows. So let me know if I'm not clear. I feel like I kicked off all the kids off the internet, but sometimes it takes a while for it to, adjust itself. So. And I'm getting over a cold, so 咕噜说你音乐多少点老少 but hopefully I'll heal soon. All right. Ready, Kelly? Okay. Yes. All right. So today's show is sponsored by WOMxn, a nonprofit out of Wisconsin that started a statewide initiative to address mental health for underserved communities, and they implemented Project Resiliency. Kelly and I have been talking this for a little while, but if you are going through some things or you know someone who's going through some things, they now have a warm line available Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. Their phone number is 1-800-293-7080. And we are just so excited to partner with them to kind of help spread the word. So if you could be so kind, whenever you see us share their content, please also help share and get that out to your network and your people. One of the really cool thing about this warm line is that it is kind of serviced for our Hmong community. They have people who speak Hmong as well on the other end of the phone call or the phone line. And so, help spread the word, share that with our elder folks as well. This is catered specifically to the underserved communities, and Hmong people are definitely one of them. So make use of that warm line.
Yeah, and WOMxn is the organization that I think last year they had received that, I believe it was 2 million grant funds from the state. And so, I think with state like allocation of funds, it's really, if it's successful, if there's a lot of response to it, then they can definitely get more funding. And so, I think that there's right now, especially like this time of the year too, where the weather is a little bit just worse. And then there's a lot of family time together as well. And sometimes that's good. And then sometimes that's not so good. And so, if you know anybody that needs it, I would say just share it to your social media, because you don't really know who's out there that is needing it. And, so if you don't have any specific person in mind, just know that there's a lot of people struggling silently. And so if you share it, then people can actually see it and be able to utilize it. And it's, all confidential. It's not like therapy where you might have to make appointments all the time. It's kind of like if you're feeling a certain way, you need to talk to somebody like that day, then, it's accessible. Then if you call one time and then you're good after that, like there's no commitment, right? And so I think that's a great thing about it.
Yeah. And like Kelly said, it is confidential. It's a non-crisis peer run warm line, so they're really there to kind of just listen and kind of talk to you. And you're right, Kelly, like people do struggle in silence. Like some people may not feel comfortable to just say, hey, I'm struggling through this. So it is really nice if you guys could just share the information just to kind of get that out, get the phone number out. People may or may not need it, but at least they know it's there for when they do.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Any updates or anything from us? I don't think so, right? I don't think we had anything yesterday besides the fact that we have back-to-back shows. So we're here again to see all of you. So Callie, I'll pass it over to you and have you introduce our awesome guests.
All right. So as David Yang pointed out, we do have Tsai Tao on tonight. Thank you, Scott, for the 99 stars. And so Tsai, or she also goes by Tsai, she's trailblazing her own path in the fashion modeling world. She became the first Hmong woman to be featured on a New York Times Square Billboard, which is amazing and is so cool. If you've been to New York and Times Square is it's like a lot of energy. And so I think to see your face up there was probably a really, really cool moment. And also made a special guest appearance on the Jason show, which I think is upwards of 50,000 views now. That was I don't know, a couple weeks ago when I checked. And so who knows where it is now, but catch her there too. And then Tsai is an alumni of International Supermodel, Coco, Rocha's modeling camp, and later appeared in People magazine and national television and Entertainment Tonight with Coco. Tsai has graced the runways for over 7 years at New York Fashion Week, Los Angeles Fashion Week, and Minnesota Fashion Week. As Tsai continues to make a mark in the modeling world, she hopes to continue to inspire the youth and Hmong women everywhere to never give up on their dreams and to always reach for their highest potential in this world. So completely amazing. And I love the inspirational piece because, I was driving home on the way, and this is a little bit of a off topic a little bit, but I was thinking about, when Hmong Baby first came out, and, me and Yer had just published the 2 children's book, right? And I remember seeing Hmong Baby and being like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. I can really attribute my wanting to do that because of her, right? And so I think with Tsai, it's just you see somebody do something and then you're like, oh, I can do that too, right? Or just so all the young women that are just, so always pursue what your heart's passion is, because people are watching and you're lifting people up and you probably don't even know it. And so super. I didn't call you David Yang.
You did. I corrected you, said Vang.
Is that what you said? Okay, I'm just sorry. I swear, I heard David Vang. Okay, so
you thought David Vang, but it came out David Yang. That's okay, David. We know who you are. We love you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for always supporting us.
I just want to make sure you were listening. Okay, so clearly you are listening. So thank you so much. So before we bring Tsai on, we're gonna play a quick video.
So cool.
I know.
I love it.
And she has such good bone structure, y'all. Model bone structure. So
yeah.
All right. So
okay, let's bring her on. I got lots of questions for her. Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
How are you?
everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in to join me, Kelly, and Olivia tonight on All Talk on the All That Talk show. And thank you to Wakma for being the sponsor for tonight's show. Everyone, so let's talk, have fun, and get this going.
Love it. Love it. All right, so then let's just kind of jump right in. Callie gave a really high level, but super detailed at the same time, kind of highlighting some of the things that you're doing. But before we dive into all of this, the questions that we have, we want to kind of just have you share a little bit about who you are. Um, if Callie missed anything on the introduction, feel free to add to or elaborate. So who is Tsai?
Yeah, I think Kelly did a great job at just kind of like doing an overview of me. But hello, everyone. My name is Tsai. My Facebook is I am Tsai. So I am a model. I've been modeling for a long time, and I finally just made it to the New York Times Square Billboard. So I'm excited. It's my passion. It's what I love to do. Aside from that, I am a community organizer. I've hosted a lot of events. I've also led recently the 2021 Fresh Editions What's Upon a Time fashion show. I was a program manager for that show. So from all aspects of modeling to hosting fashion shows to working behind the scenes to producing it to being on the runway, everything, I've done all of it. So I'm excited to be here today and excited to get to know all of you and wherever you guys are from. So if you guys are from Minnesota, California, let us know so that all of us can give you guys a shout out for viewing us tonight on this show. So
Yeah, definitely. You have definitely done a lot. I seen you just like videos emceeing, and then I was in attendance at the Fresh Traditions when you organize it too. And that is not an easy task. So congrats for just like giving, like not only being an example, but like giving back as well, because I think that is really important
absolutely,
to do.
yeah. The community did a lot for me. I've had a lot of people support me, and I just want to do the same back to the community. They inspire me. I just hope I can inspire them back.
You definitely do.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and I guess your mom says hi.
Oh, hi, Mom. She's downstairs.
Thank you. All right, so let's jump into modeling. So what inspired you to get into modeling?
Yeah, so as a young girl, I've always wanted to model. I would watch like all those model shows like Victoria's Secret Model and the what is it? The modeling competition show by Tyra Banks. Wow,
America's Next Top Model.
there you go. Oh my gosh, I forgot it. I'm a fake fan, but yeah, America's Next Top Model, Victoria's Secret fashion show. I loved watching them. So I would use the kitchen. I would use the hallway in my home, just use it as a runway, pretend that I'm on the catwalk doing the same thing as they are. And I would practice posing in front of the mirror, pretending that I'm doing a photo shoot. And so that was like a long dream for me. And I never knew, that I was actually going to go into it. It is just what I wanted to do. But all the glitz, the glam, the fun ways you can express yourself, that's what inspired me to get into modeling. And it is fun. It teaches you a lot about yourself, and it challenges you to, get out of your comfort zone as well. So I love modeling. It isn't always pretty, but what you put into it, what you get out of it, it's great. It feels great.
Yeah. So is it true that, you have to be like 5'5" or 5'7" or taller?
And it depends on what
At least
type of
that's the
model.
rumor I hear.
Okay, so the traditional requirement for a model would be for women, it would be like 5'8", 5'9", and above, which obviously I am not, right? I am not 5'8", 5'9". I'm like 5'3", 5'4". But thing is, it depends on what type of modeling you want to go into as well. So obviously for maybe like runway or editorial modeling, yeah, it may require you to be taller because, that's just what the designers want, right? Like if you fit the vision, then you get it. And then there's different types of modeling like print modeling or glamour modeling where they only take pictures maybe from the waist and up so that they don't see your body. They only, want to see your face. And if your face also fits their, description, what they want, then you can definitely model at any height, really. It just depends if you are what they are looking for.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So who are some models that you look up to?
Oh, great question. There's so many. How do I? For sure. A lot of people that I've talked with, every time they ask me, like, what model do I look up to? The first name I instantly think of is Coco Rocha. Hence, she was kind of in my bio when Kali was reading it. Coco Rocha is an amazing model. She is considered the queen of pose. And I looked up to her in that because when I was younger, although I wanted to model, I sucked at posing. I didn't know how to, use my body. I didn't know how to use my hands to pose, but she was the queen of pose. And I looked up to her a lot and, learning how to use my body and learning how to, market the products or the clothes that I'm wearing. So she was great at that. She was definitely someone that I looked up to. And then I also looked up to Naomi Campbell. Don't know if you guys know who she is, but she is a queen. She is the queen of the runway. And I know I wanted to get into runway, so I looked up to her tips. I looked at her videos all the time. I would study from her. I would just YouTube her and watch her every day. So those are the two people that I absolutely look up to.
So speaking of, I have a story to tell, actually. I don't know if I think you might be a bit young, but I used to read 17 magazine, and there was this I think it was like Barbizon modeling camp. Does that sound familiar at all?
No.
Okay. So they used to have these modeling camp, and it was in 17 magazines. It was just advertising, and I convinced my dad to take me to it, and so it was an
Really?
Yes, right?
Well, I've not heard this story before.
You model? What?
No, I didn't model. So then I went, and then you have to walk for them, and then of course then it's like a self pitch basically, right? Because it's you have to do the walking, the makeup, all that stuff. And so then after I realized I'm that's a lot of money, and because I was short and I didn't know anything about it, because I was an avid reader of 17, right? And those were I think the women that I saw were the women that I aspired to be, which looked nothing like me at that time, right? And so I think that's what's great about now is there is a lot of diversity, and there's a lot of women that you can look up to. But at that time, right, it was just well, let me try this. But anyways, it was going to be $2,000 to take that training or whatever. And so I was okay, this is a lot, and this is not what I thought it was going to be. So anyways, but you have done modeling camp, and so maybe you can tell us a little bit about what that experience is like.
Yeah, so actually I'm just kind of gonna go back into your story there. So I've heard of Barbizon very little bit. I think they are an older model management company, and so I'm not quite familiar with it. But as far as modeling camp, yeah, modeling the industry in general, anything that you want to go into, it does cost money. If you want to do workshops, if you want to hire a coach to help you learn how to walk on the runway, or to help you pose in front of the camera. These are coaches that you do have to hire. And sometimes if you want to start out in modeling, you do have to hire photographers to take your photos too. So a lot of it is a self-investment, industry. So you get what you put in it. And as far as modeling camp goes, yeah, so I did go. So I did go into a modeling camp called the Coco Rocha's modeling camp back in 2020. And it was a week-long camp, and it consisted of runway workshops and posing. And I loved it so much because I felt like I, not only met my idol Coco Rocha, but I learned from her. I sat with her, and there was a day where each model we were able to pose to show Coco Rocha what we learned. And she legit sat down with me, and she was like, Tsai, you should be proud of yourself. And I was oh my gosh, to hear from my idol to tell me that I should be proud of myself and that I'm going to do great things in the future. That's what motivated me to continue modeling, is that Tokenji. Oh, can I speak Hmong?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if the viewers are all Hmong or different ethnicity, but yeah. So Tokenji, I don't know, yeah, it just makes you want to. It just or so that was one of the reasons why I went to modeling camp, is to meet Coco Rocha, but also to learn from her as well, and just to meet her. And yeah, so
Yeah, I do want to point out, like, I love that you talked about that, because I think it's just like going to school, right? You pay for the school, and so that's your investment in yourself. And so anything that you pay, like whether it's modeling or like other things that you pursue, like consider that an investment to yourself. Like, so something I
Exactly.
didn't think about at all. I just thought
Yeah.
2000, like that's a lot of money at that time.
So you're trying to tell me that you could have been a model and we could be traveling the world right now, is what you're telling me.
You could have been on Times Square Billboard.
Honestly, I was such an awkward teenager. I don't even know how I got, and then like convincing my parents to, like, "basically, we got 8 kids. My parents, get paid like go at max. So I don't know how I even convinced them that, hey, like you're like, very plain girl wants to be a model. But I'm glad they at least believed in me.
I think your dad would have coughed up that $2,000 for you, Callie.
Yeah, I think you would have to.
Yeah, modeling, even like right now, it still costs money. It definitely does. But modeling is one of those like careers where it isn't, in the books, right? Kind of like how, we can go to school to be a doctor, we can go to school to be a teacher or a nurse, but modeling, we don't have a manual for that. And modeling it is, there's like no step A, B, or C. It's what it's what best fits you. It's what you can do for yourself. And if if you're able to pay for modeling classes, great. And if you're not able to, there are also like free workshops as well. You just have to look into it. So modeling, it does cost money. It definitely does. But I think there is a lot more like classes and workshops for right now that people can actually join in.
Yeah. So you've been on runways for like several big shows, right? So Callie mentioned like New York Fashion Week, LA Fashion Week, and Minnesota Fashion Week. How did you get into these shows? Do people like approach you? Do you have to like apply to be a model? Like how did that process go?
Yeah. So the number one reason or the like absolute number one way to get into a fashion show, such as New York Fashion Show or like LA Fashion Week, is to go through what we call a casting call. So a casting call, think of it as an interview. Okay, so then you go into the space, the designers, the producers of the event, they get to see you in person, and then you literally like walk and you show them your strut, you show them your runway walk, and if you also like fit their description, and if you fit their vision, then they'll select you. And if you get through to the casting call, then you're in the show. But typically prior to the casting call, your agency or your manager, they submit your resume, your portfolio, or your headshots into the casting calls, and then you will get a call back. So if they email you back and say, hey, like you're invited to the casting call, then you'll get to go to the casting call, and you'll show your runway in front of these designers and producers, and if they select you, then you get to walk in the runway show. So that's how a model can get into these shows.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for, because I would like, even you just saying that, like doing chai, like, so how do you, because it's kind of scary, right? Because I'm sure there's like a panel of people and you're just supposed to like go and act like what you're, I mean, I guess if you're modeling already, then but I think, like if you have any tips for anybody who is, wanting to venture in that, of just like building that confidence and being true to yourself, but also, getting, booked and stuff.
Yeah. So what I usually think of when I do runway is that, so I always make sure that I have the right shoes. The right shoes, when you go into the runway walk, because lot taller, or if it's too small, it's going to prohibit the way that you walk. So absolutely, number one, get the right shoes. Number two, if you know that you're going to go into a casting call, you want to rehearse, you want to practice your runway walk, right? You want to practice. If I was in a room, I would show you guys like how to, like your posture and all, but I'm not. So, if like you absolutely want to, go into these casting calls, you want to pull your shoulders back and then hands on your side, don't sway it too much. And then you want to walk like you're walking in a line. So those are some of the tips that I would give to people who want to, go into runway. And then, of course, just be yourself. When you go into the room, that is the absolute first impression that producers and designers get to see you. So, You want to go in there. You don't want to be on your phone. You don't want to be, touching your hair. You don't want to be arrogant, right? You want to go in there. You want to be professional, because those during that time, people can be, already like auditioning you, and then you want to just show confidence, show attitude. Even if I'm 5'3", or even if you are 5'6" and you're not tall enough, if you can show that you're confident on the runway, you can show that you got great attitude, great personality, then that could also help you get through to the casting call too.
So do they like interview at all, or do they just hire you based on your walk and how you present yourself without talking?
So you present yourself without talking, basically. So you let your walk, your attitude, your face expressions, you let all of that do the work.
Yeah. Okay, well, I can see that you've got the smizing down. I can see that.
I mean, like, I think sometimes, if like they're absolutely interested in you, they'll definitely ask you questions, kind of like, oh, how long have you been like walking? What management are you with? Or, like, who have you walked for before? So they'll ask you maybe questions based on your experiences, but that they're not going to sit down and talk with you like an interview where they ask you, like, where, like, how many years have you been doing this? Or like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? They don't do that.
Yeah. So do they just like call you into the room and then you just like
walk
and then they're like, if they like you, like, or they just, okay, you're done, like just start walking in and then walk out? Like, how is it, and how do you find out?
So I'll give an example. So the very first New York fashion show that I ever auditioned for was like a few years ago, and my agency or my management, they actually told me about this, and then they submitted my resume and email into it, and then I got an email back saying that I was invited to the casting call. And then upon going to the casting call, there are like hundreds of models. Like when I say hundreds, I mean like if you've been to a fashion show like audition, like for the Hmong community, there's maybe like 50, 100, but these fashion shows, it's like 300, 400, 500 girls. All that are also auditioning for the same show that you are walking in. And so when you go in there, you wait in line, and then you get your number. And this number is going to be able to set you apart, because there's so many of you, they're not going to remember your name, but they'll remember your model number. Like I was like number 272, I think, the very first New York fashion show. And then they will take a photo of you to let them know what number you were, and then they'll take your comp card, or they'll take like extra headshots that you brought in yourself, and then you go into a room and you wait until all the other models walked, and then they call you and your group into the room, and then they have you walk in front of everyone. You walk in front of all the designers, all the producers, all the other models that are also in the room. So you absolutely have to step up your game. And oh my God, the first time I went there, I was so scared, because the model and I was like, oh my gosh, I was just like telling myself, I was like, what the hell am I doing here? What the hell do I think I'm doing here? But I was like, I'm already here. This was absolutely what I wanted. And I told myself the absolute worst thing that can happen is them telling you no. Basically, they'll, if you don't get into the show, they'll just send you out of the room. They'll just like, thank you for coming, but you weren't selected. And they'll tell you too. And so then you walk out the room, and then you call it a day, and, don't be discouraged, because there are other fashion shows that you can also, go to the casting call as well. It's not the end of the world. But eventually I walked, and they selected me, and I was like, oh, okay, I can let all this nervousness out now. So those models, like a cool hang, but I felt like I met my match, and I was like, all right, I'll just do what I need to do and walk out if I don't get selected.
Sounds so intense. Like it's like worse than an actual job, like a job interview that you would go to, because you're doing it in front of possibly hundreds of people, right?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like when you are, doing like a job interview, it's just you and like the hiring, like manager. But then in this room, you have the casting directors, you have the, runway producers, the sponsors, you have designers. There's like 20 of them, and then there's like hundreds of models watching you as well while you're walking, and it's just like, oh, I got so much pressure.
Yeah, I know, that's like intense. I remember. I mean, this is a different example, but I remember like answering the phone when I got my first job and knowing that people are listening to me. I was nervous about that. So I can imagine like going and like, your competition, are also looking at you, right? And you're getting psyched out watching your competition. And so can you talk a little bit about, like imposter syndrome and dealing with comparison and rejection? I think those are all things that, I think for many other jobs it's the same, but then I think for like modeling it's so apparent, especially with social media nowadays too, right? It's easy to want to go look and compare. And so maybe you can just talk a little bit about dealing with all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get into this field, it's competitive. There are new models every day, and you'll eventually start to realize that you are comparing yourself to other models. I know I absolutely did, because the traditional model man, I don't look like the traditional model, so I easily compared myself to what the standard was, which is a very tall, lean, fair-skinned, blonde, blue-eyed woman. That is the traditional model, and that is the standard for the modeling industry. Even to this day, it still is. But the modeling industry has gotten better. But yeah, so I easily compared myself because sometimes I don't get the gig because I'm not tall, or because I didn't look like them, or because I just don't fit their vision. And how I deal with this is, I would just like step back from the environment, and I just tell myself that, what, Sai, you are different from them and they are different from you. You have what they don't have and they have what you don't have. I am short, I am Hmong, I have monolids, but what I have is that because I don't look like them, I can use it to my advantage, right? When I step into the room, even though I don't look like other models, I am the first person that the directors see because I'm different. And because of that, I use it to my advantage and say, you know what, you are eyeing me, I'm going to show you what I can do, and I'm not going to let like my indifferences set me back. And when you look at other models, even if again, you are not them, they are not you. I'm not Coco Rocha. Coco Rocha is not me. She has something that that is great for other people, like other designers, and I have something that other designers will also look for too. So that's how I kind of so that's how I bring myself back into this and into the game, is that although I compare myself a lot, I also step myself back and I tell myself, just be yourself.
Yeah, I like that. You just gotta believe in
Yeah,
yourself.
you're right. You know what? You gotta tell yourself you are the best
That's right.
in the room. Okay.
How you landed your first walk in for New York Fashion Week, right? You walked in there and you just killed it. So
I mean, I hope I did. That's why I got selected.
So I know Callie had asked you earlier about like giving some pointers to people, but kind of like, what are some little things that you do for yourself to kind of like prepare yourself for the actual like runway, right? Because you talked about when you're going in for the casting call, but what about like when you've already booked and you are ready to go? Are there certain things that you do to kind of get your mind there?
Absolutely. So number one thing that what helps me prep for the show is obviously going into the runway rehearsals. So self-explanatory, you go in and you learn the runway. And then second, I make sure I get a good night's rest before the show. Sometimes on the day of my fashion shows, when I wake up, I see the moon, and then when I go home, I still see the moon. So that is kind of the like so those are kind of the hours, just to show you that that I kind of work during my fashion shows, because usually not for fashion shows, you should expect a full day, or you should expect to commit a full day. You wake up at 5 to get to the show, and then here in makeup is at 7 a.m. and then or the fashion show maybe doesn't start until 5 or 6 p.m. and then you don't get to go home until 8 p.m. because you're socializing, or there's like people who want to take photos of you, right? So I am there an entire day, and I want to make sure I get a good night's rest. And then when I go home, I can just clean up my hair and my face, and then go back to sleep. And then I also make sure I stay hydrated and I eat healthy, and I give my body like the love that it deserves, which is to work out. And I make sure that like I'm not, stressing my body out, right? Not doing more than I need to do for my body. So staying hydrated, getting a good meal in. And then lastly, before I go on, before I go on the runway, I give myself a little motivational speech. I tell myself, Tsai, after you kill it on the runway, you can go eat burgers and fries. And if you don't do well on the runway, you'll just eat a slice of bread. Food is my motivation.
I love it.
If I do well, I can go treat myself out. If I don't do well, which is never the case, then I will just go home and starve.
Yeah. Yeah.
You in the 90s, and I think so, there was a model Twiggy that I used to read about, but I feel like in the 90s it was like this very, and I think Kate Moss did this too, right? The very thin, very hungry looking, and I feel like just from as a consumer, and then like on this end of just seeing like models, I feel like that has changed a little bit. But do you have to like diet and exercise? Do you feel like that's still kind of like the trend of just trying to stay as like small as possible to fit into the clothing that the designers, or do you feel like it's a little bit more flexibility now?
Oh yeah, I still think that definitely happens for some models. Some models that I've spoken to, they do go through a diet. I wouldn't say super strict, but then it's like, again, it depends on what designers are looking for, right? Or it depends on what type of modeling you want to go into as well. So if we have petite models, but right now we also have curvy models, and so it definitely still happens. But the modeling industry has definitely been more accepting, been more inclusive and flexible with the sizes that they show in the social media right now.
Yeah. So question, like when you get booked, do they book you based on like obviously they do, because like they design tao like now, right? So do they book you based on whether you're going to fit this particular design in mind, or do they say, no, I want her, and then I will make adjustments to kind of fit whatever her shape is?
Could be both. It could be both. Yeah. So when I auditioned for my very first New York Fashion Show week, my very first New York Fashion Week fashion show, these designers, some of them already have their lineup clothes, right? They already have the clothes sewn and it's already been produced. And so they are looking for models that can fit it. But if they absolutely like you, they absolutely want you in the collection, then they will adjust or custom their designs to fit you. So it goes both ways.
Okay. It's interesting. Good to know.
And how important is social media, like with, like trying to get gigs and like trying to grow a following? I know I've heard like just different people talk about, I mean, like just creators in general, but like sometimes they'll say, they'll look at your social media, if you have a big following, then they might pick you, and not for just modeling, but for other types of creators as well, right? So how do you feel like that social media impacts maybe your chances of maybe getting more shows, or, if they know that, you already have a great following?
So social media, it definitely is a big tool right now. And I think, the world in general is, it's running digitally, right? And so social media is also a tool that, agents or designers also use to find their models. Or you chimo internet, you chimo Instagram, they not gay, or they only, they meet you in person. That's the first time that they get to see you. This is social media, not gay. Designers, they can see what you look like before they actually meet you in person, which also helps them, save time, right? You're like, oh, if I see you on social media and you have a good social media presence, then I like you and I can choose you. Or if I don't, then, I can move on to the next model. So social media definitely is a huge tool right now. And I think for models right now, they should definitely utilize it as much as to their advantage, because everyone is using social media right now. And if you have a social media presence, that does help you get into shows, help you get into gigs. There are some models where they don't have a big following, but, they still get booked because they have agents and managers that help them.
Yeah, that's a good call. So how does someone get into a management company or an agency that kind of helps with their modeling and stuff? How do you get a contract signed?
So first, to get into management or an agency, a model is either scouted, or to get into an agency, you can, search up agencies and managements in your area, and you can go and apply on their website directly. So right now, I think, after COVID, it's definitely helped a lot of people that instead of having to travel to the offices, they can just apply online, and they'll tell you what they need. They'll tell you that we need photos, of such and such, and they'll tell you if they need a resume. They'll tell you, if, you also need to come in person. A lot of managements right now, they're not doing in-person casting calls because they have the digital tool, right?
Mhm.
And so that's one way that you can get into the modeling agencies. And then also be careful, because mo ito or agencies where they can scam models too, and that happens a lot in the industry. So read the terms and make sure that it is a real agency. And then after they receive your application, and if they like you, then they'll call you in. They'll call you for an interview, or they'll call you into a casting call, or what we call a go see. Right? They just want to see you again. They want to talk with you, and then they'll read the contract with you. And if you and the casting director, if both of you guys see eye to eye, and they like you, you like them, then you can sign up to. Then you can sign up. I was like, two Olivias. Okay, am I blind? Okay. Yeah, and then you can sign up with them. And then I do recommend that if you are like 21 years and younger, I recommend that you to go with a parent or you go with a trusted adult. And then if you're 21 years and older, you can go by yourself.
Yeah, I remember being approached a few times at the mall back in my high school days when, everything was still in the right places before having kids.
Mhm.
And I was also a lot lighter. and I think a lot of, I don't know, I feel like the scamming stuff happened a lot more back in the day than it does now, because I feel like there's so many different ways of researching whether an agency is actually real or not. Whereas before, "Chito mo internet to yun na ya." So you just kind of have to trust people. And I remember when people like would approach me at the mall, I would just like, "Okay, thanks," and walk away. Plus, I don't have an adult with me. I don't know whether it's, like a scam or not. And sometimes it could just be like perverted men trying to like get your number too, So I just never really cared for that stuff. But, it's
Yeah.
good to know, kind of like what you said, that there are a lot of scammers out there. So it's probably a good idea that, I rejected like all of them. Though I could also have been a model taking us around the world,
That's right.
Kelly.
Yeah, so another like way to see if the models are if these managements or agencies or
Mhm.
agents are scam is if they ask you to pay before you sign a contract. So if they ask you to pay for an application fee, or if they say, "Oh yeah, if you want to sign with our company, you have to pay me $200 first, and then you get to meet our like casting directors," that's false. You never have to pay for anything that you've never seen or that you've never, or for a person that you've never met. So if you are called into a management or an agency and they tell you you have to pay for something first, don't. You should never have to pay for something first. So yeah, that's another
That's a
way.
good red flag.
Red flag.
Mhm.
Okay, we've got two questions. So the first one is from Yasmin Moa. Do you get to keep the clothes?
The clothes, sometimes yes and sometimes no. And I say yes because sometimes that designer ni kana, then that's kind of a form of payment, right? Like, oh yeah, like all my models, they work hard. You get to choose a pair of clothes that you want, or you get to choose to keep the clothes that you wore. And then sometimes designers, they want their collection back because they want to show it in other fashion shows. So yes and no, depending on the designer.
Mhm.
Okay, and then talking about contracts, Shua asked, in reviewing contract terms, should you bring an attorney with you?
In reviewing contract terms, should you bring an attorney with you? So if you're reviewing contract terms, so if it's like if it's your first day, meeting the agents or meeting the management, you don't have to bring an attorney with you because but what you can do is that you can take the contract home and then you can review it with your attorney, and then the next day, if everything looks good, you can bring it back to the management and say, okay, everything looks good, I want to sign in. Or if things don't look good, or if things look fishy, then you can always reject the management or the agency.
Okay, because they wouldn't like just make you sign in the spot, right? I feel
They
like
won't make you sign on the spot. Majority of the managements or agencies, they do give you like a day or two to think about it. And then if you absolutely want to join, you absolutely, take your time. You don't have to rush. The management agencies, they will always be there, so don't rush, take your time.
Unless it's a scam.
Unless it's a scam and they ask for money.
That's right.
Okay, so speaking of like just diversity, and I think what I gather from what you're saying is that when we think about modeling, it's more than just runway. There's all types of models and modeling that you can do. And so as far as the diversity piece, like, do you feel that is the same for runways, or is that like just by designers? Like maybe some designers are a little bit more more open to diversity, whether that's like height, like race or body shape, body types.
So when I think of diversity, the first thing that comes to my mind is, people from different backgrounds, right? We're talking like Caucasian, European, Western, and Black African American, Latina, Latino, male models, female models, and even Asian models. So in terms of diversity, the overall answer is yes, there are diversity. We're starting to see more diversity now. This year, like Ningo Beito like 3 decades ago, you probably wouldn't. In a magazine, in the media, you'll probably see the same like European woman, tall, lean, fair-skinned, blonde hair, blue-eyed woman. Again, that was the standard, the beauty standard back then. But in terms of like diversity, we are starting to see diversity now, and not just models from different like backgrounds and ethnicities, but also models of size now too, right? So we are still seeing petite models, but the modeling industry has done a good job at accepting models who are curvy as well. Is what you would call a girl from like size,
Plus
like
size.
Yeah, plus size. So curvy models, petite models, and even like hyperpigmented models, and even models who are who has a disability now. There are models who has Down syndrome that can also model now too. So modeling industry has done a great job at at like reaching those strides, but that doesn't mean that there isn't more to make. So
That's
yes.
right.
Yes, I definitely feel like I remember just like reading lots of magazines and like 2 brands that stand out to me who have the very typical like Caucasian, like Tommy Hilfiger and Ralph Lauren, like very just a little bit more cookie cutter of just, like your typical what you would see in mainstream. And so I definitely do enjoy seeing, and support the brands that are a little bit more open-minded and really want that diversity and actually like walk the talk, right? Because I think so many people, so many brands, companies talk about diversity, but it's just like at the highest level, where do we see that diversity? Is it actually happening? Because that is really important to have like, diversity at different chains, because that's how you can actually start to bring more, diverse models and diverse people into the fold.
Exactly. The social media dialogue has definitely changed because we have so many models that are, like African American or, a lot of Asian models now. And so, like I said, the modeling industry, we're definitely starting to be more accepting and inclusive. And I definitely hope that continues to grow so that more Hmong girls can also model too.
Yes, I would love to see that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think diversity is definitely a big thing. It's kind of growing everywhere and in all of the industries. I remembered when I was like maybe 16 or 17. I don't remember where. I think it was either American Eagle or Hollister that I had applied at. I wasn't like all the people that was, it's like during like holiday season, so they're like looking for a ton of people. It was me and this other Asian girl, and everyone else was like Mexicana. We were the only 2 that was not hired.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah. You go back to the store when it's like time, and then everyone you saw at your interview was hired, but you and another Asian person, you know?
No,
And
yeah.
you know who was a big offender too? Abercrombie and Fitch. Like
Yeah,
it was
I
very
just don't remember which store. I know it was either that one, American Eagle, or Hollister, one of those ones that I had applied for and interviewed. Yeah.
No,
So
yeah. I mean, there are definitely still brands who are, who has not, what
they
is
have
it?
not embraced diversity.
Not embrace diversity. They are not, what is it? Open-minded, and their
Yeah.
vision is still the traditional
Yep.
model.
Yeah, because even when you go into the stores and you see all the pictures of the models wearing their clothes, it's still it feels very like not diverse, and it's not very inclusive. So I don't support those stores mainly because of that, but
exactly.
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, so unfortunately, like, the market that, like, they are marketing to is still, the same as it was, 10, 20 years ago. So a lot of things 10, 20 years ago, it still definitely exists today. But I'm hoping in the next decade, like, even if I'm no longer in the industry, I really hope that we start to see change so that the younger generations can feel beautiful, they can see themselves, and they can relate to society and standards.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, speaking of the younger generation, Callie and I didn't do a really good job in the modeling industry, but you have. So you've appeared on the New York Times Square Billboard. What was that experience like for you? Like going there and seeing it, or just like, how did you even get yourself there? Like, I want to know it all.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So I've been modeling for a while, and we are Times Square Suna, which is a big deal. But then, I've been modeling for a long time, and to be able to get to the New York Times Square Billboard, it definitely felt great. Hmong people have been around for so long, and for a long time, for me to be the first Hmong woman to be on the New York Times Square Billboard, I definitely felt like it is a great accomplishment. It definitely makes me feel like I'm on the right path to, a successful career in this industry, right? Nukumo Itian Tia models from, like, all over the world that also messaged me, and le shotoro ko haitia le jungshia de le python time home or mopping sitia im yasho ni oto or le mo kikishia to le jaminyo na ya. And that also gives me hope that, that I'm doing something right? Like, I'm doing something right, not just for myself, but for the younger generations and anyone behind me. There are, so I want to thank everyone who has written to me. I want to thank everyone, who has, like, supported me since day one, and everyone who also, like, has recently supported me too. So thanks to you guys is why I am here. So I definitely feel great. I feel like, this isn't the last stop for me. There's going to be more bigger opportunities for me as well. So I'm thankful, I'm grateful, and I am humbled about my experience at the New York Times Square Billboard.
Awesome. That was really amazing. When I saw that video, I'm just like, whoa, like that's because, like I've been to New York and just being there and just like, wow, that's absolutely amazing. So speaking of like where you see yourself going, how are you preparing yourself, like for the future, especially again, like we talk about there's social media, there's a lots of competition. And so how are you preparing yourself, and where do you see yourself going, and where do you want to go?
I definitely want to go mainstream, hopefully. So being on the New York Times Square Billboard, mainstream, I want to be like mainstream model. I definitely want to be on the front cover of Vogue or Harper's Bazaar or Elle, a major international magazine, so that it's not only for myself, but it's also for other Hmong girls too, so that they can see that, oh, there's a Hmong girl on the magazine. Oh my gosh, like I could be on it too. So definitely mainstream. And then I want to continue to travel around the world, right? I want to be able to go to New York style, go to like LA. I want to be able to go to like Milan and Paris Fashion Week. I want to walk for those big brands, which you walk for Chanel, Dior, and even like, Fendi, right? So I want to walk for a huge international brand. I also want to hopefully land a beauty campaign for like L'Oreal or like those like Dior, like big, like high brand fashion, like cosmetic brand. So that's where I want to go. to how I'm going to prepare myself there is to just work hard, to continue doing what I want to do, and also to continue getting the support from my family members, my friends, and from my fans. So if you guys continue to support me, I'll be able to get there.
I love that. I was going to say, outside of like support, like, are there specific things that, our community can do to help support you and get you there quicker?
Definitely. So right now, right now I am beginning to, post, like tips and tricks on my page. I want to, make posts just for people who are interested in modeling, in general. So one way you can support me is to just go like and follow my pages, and then just continue to follow my journey on all my social medias. And sometimes, or you guys can also send illusion to complete solution. Okay, so you guys can send that to me too.
I love that. And we always say, like, it's free, right? It's free to like, follow, share, help create that hype, because I think that's how brands notice, is like when, people do have big following and there's a lot of hype and energy. And, you have such great like bone structure and stuff. And so hopefully you can definitely land those beauty campaigns.
Yeah.
I hope so. The industry is really competitive, so we'll see where I go with this, but that's what I want. And again, like what Kelly said, it is free to like and share my things and to follow me. And again, I am starting to post like free content as well for anyone who wants to maybe get into modeling. So I am also going to offer that, and I hope that you guys will follow me and like be on this journey with me. So that's a way you guys can support me.
Yeah. That's a great leeway into this next question that you just mentioned about posting some free tips for folks who want to start modeling. But are there one or two things that you can give our audience members with them now on what could they do if they wanted to start modeling? What are some of the first things that they should
do? For modeling, I would suggest a model to have a basic understanding of the industry in general, right? Mm-hmm. So understand, where the modeling industry is now, and also educate yourself about the different types of modeling. Again, as mentioned, there's like runway modeling, there's print, and then there's also commercial, and there's beauty and glam as well. There's a lot of different types of modeling. It isn't just one. And so educate yourself on the different types of modeling, and then get some pictures taken of yourself. Reach out to a photographer, or you can even pay a photographer, to take photos for you. And then you want to submit those photos into the agencies or into the managements. And then you want to build your portfolio by volunteering to walk for fashion shows, or do free test shots for photographers, right? So building your portfolio, taking pictures, and educating yourself in the industry.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, is there any last words that you want to leave? Anything that you just want to say to your fans, followers, our audience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you again, All That Talk, for having me on this show, and thank you to our sponsors, WACMA, and thank you especially to all my family, friends, and all my fans. Thank you so much for supporting me since day one. I'm very happy and I'm proud that being the first small woman to be on the New York Times Square Billboard is definitely an accomplishment. But I know my journey, it doesn't stop here. So I hope you guys will continue to support me so that I can also, want to get into modeling. Yeah. And I hope that parents, you guys will continue to support your child's dreams as well. Doctor, teachers, baby, or Olympian, baby, or news anchor, model, or Nadal to Yalaje, but talk about the nature, baby, Hmong community, or Tanga, or Bay, or Tsai, Lumude Chan on it. Okay, so that's what I want to say. And again, thank you to everyone who is also on our live tonight as well.
Love it. All right, Kelly, you want to ask that last question, or?
Yeah, I can. So I know you had talked about people connecting with you. Are you on, can you tell us all your handles and where people can support you?
Yes. So my Facebook page is I am Tsai. So IAMTSAI. And then on my Instagram, it's the Modern Girl. So THEHMODERNGIRL. And I'll be having a website coming up too. And then again, I'll be posting like contents on my page. So I hope you guys will follow me. And you want to learn more about modeling, feel free to follow me, like and share my content as well. So yeah, so that's how people can connect with me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on with us and just for showing us that, yeah, there is diversity in the things that we can do, and we need representation in all places. You know, we don't just need, like you said, doctors and lawyers and teachers, right? We really need to be represented because the world is made of lots of different industries, lots of different places. And the more places that we can get ourselves into, the more that we can help, you know, in all areas and continue to pull our people upwards. And so thank you for being with us tonight, Tsai, and just being a great role model for us, model and role model. And then your mom was also impeccable. And so just that is absolutely amazing. I'm just, you know, like anytime anybody speaks really good moms, it's just such a great, especially at you know, like how young you are. And so thank you for just being a great example of just not a model, but also, you know, speaking Hmong and you know, practicing that. And so thank you for everyone for joining us tonight. Again, please go support Tsai and all of her handles and continue to support her and watch her journey. We definitely believe that this is really just the beginning. There's so much ahead of you, and we're so excited to watch your journey. And of course, here at All That Talk, we believe that conversations drive change, and change starts with you. We will see y'all next week. Have a good night.
You.
Bye.